This will probably be the first and last time I ever do this, but I'm going to tell you that this will be a short video, maybe 15 minutes or less. And that if you haven't already seen the video I just did with Brian Wang and you don't have time for that 45 minutes and this 15 minutes, I'll put the card up and you should go watch the one with Brian. It's like really, really important. It's really, really deep and thorough about what's going to happen with data in space and how that's going to impact Tesla, how Tesla's the only company along with SpaceX that can do it, the details of how it will work out, the kind of stuff Brian does all the time, where you get to see what this really means. Okay, so now that I've told you that, let's get on with and I'm going to be a little out of order today. I'm not going to do Tesla first, but we'll get to some Tesla stuff. So today the markets were hit with worries about the ADP numbers. But if you take you know, 15,000, I'm sorry, I forget the exact number, 11,000 jobs a week or something that we were losing. That came up to 44,000. And then you add that to the 44,000, I'm sorry, was it? Yeah, 44,000 that was recorded a week or so ago by ADP in terms of positives. So the negatives, it all comes up to zero. Okay, so zero. So like, I don't know whether that's 8 weeks or 6 weeks, but altogether you're talking about no change. Now, maybe it's a little bit negative, but remember, I've been projecting, believing, talking about for I don't know how many months now that I believe that the ADP numbers and the federal government numbers both will be showing zero growth, maybe 20 to 40,000 in either direction each time. Maybe over time, there'll be a little bit of growth or maybe a little bit negative growth. It's really kind of hard to project. We've got the government workers that were laid off. We've got all the immigrants that are being sent back. We don't have very many immigrants coming in. We have AI having some kind of an impact, although I'm not sure that's a giant impact yet, but it's some kind of an impact. We have companies that are trying to become lean and mean for the first time since COVID, who overpopulated their companies with employees because there was no employees. But at the same time, this morning I reported that the NFIB said the number one problem they have is with finding employees. So they're not able to find employees that have the skill sets that they need. So there's a mismatch going on. And people, of course, are arguing right now about the H1B visas. I'll talk about that in a second. But there's a mismatch in the employees that the companies need compared to the employees that are walking through the front door. Now, it's possible that the young graduates and even the people that didn't graduate are, kind of myopic. I know I've seen this a lot where people that are looking for jobs, they're just, going to Indeed, going to, various boards, LinkedIn, et cetera, and just hoping that maybe somebody will answer. And then they send out 1,000 resumes and hope that maybe their resume will make it to the top of the stack. That's not how you do it in a market like this, because there's all kinds of people right now that still hire, and probably a lot of the small businesses that still hire through friends and associates. So if you've got people that that are looking for a job and not finding anything, I highly recommend that you teach them how to network. Teach them how to network. All right, Rasmussen polls. Rasmussen also polls households. Rasmussen, by the way, is the most accurate presidential polling site. And so in addition to that, they do many other things. And they have been polling households for years because they think that this survey that the federal government does is all messed up. And so their numbers come out more like in the 7%, 7.5%. Anyway, they did their poll and they said that they had a very slight increase in unemployment. I mean, on the order of zero point 0.3 or 0.4%. So right now, they're not seeing this as very significant. All right, let's talk about the H-1B visas. So the president is in trouble with both the right and the left for saying that the Americans don't have the skill sets necessary to build some of these new facilities. And people are like, well, what do you mean we don't have those skill sets? Well, okay, do you remember when TSMC started building their plant in Arizona? And they said, oh, we have to bring some people here because there's nobody here that knows how to build this fab. or how to run the fab once we build it. And then you remember the Korean situation with Samsung, with their, or no, it wasn't Samsung, it was the car maker. It was, yeah, it was Kia, or anyway, one of the Korean automakers who had the facility over there, and they brought in all kinds of their own people in order to run that plant and got in trouble because they were not quite legally here. Yeah, this is a serious problem. We do not have manufacturing. We don't have people who've been brought up in a manufacturing environment. We don't have people that have been trained in manufacturing skills, and some of those are the kinds of things that take years to develop. People go through, like, CNC machines and things of this nature. You don't just sit down at a CNC machine and start using it. You have to understand what it's for and all the ramifications. It's welding. This is not something it's like, okay, grab a welder and let's go over here. So I think you get it. Now, my bottle manufacturing company, sure, most of the jobs, a person could walk in and start doing them. We're not talking about that level of job. We're talking about things like welders and CNC folks. I know plenty of welders and CNC folks who make over 100,000 a year. Internal, what do you would call it? Industrial plumbing, industrial electricians making over 100,000 a year for sure. So these are not industrial plumbers and industrial electricians. No, it's not something you learn in a weekend or even a year or even two. You could become, start in as an apprentice and start working your way up, but you're not ready to go at a high level. Anyway, so the president is saying, look, we need some H-1B visas in order to bring people in to help set up these plants, help run these plants, and then teach our people how to do it. Hopefully, people will go into these new industries because that's one of the places where there's going to be jobs. Okay, so that's my thinking on H-1B visas. I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know if we need H-1B visas or not, but it sounds like the president has studied this. He's asked his people, and people have told him that no, for now, we still need these H-1B visas. And by the way, we also we do need immigration. We do need people coming. People are like, well, I still want to kick out all 30,000 people, 30 million people that came in illegally, and then I don't want to bring any more people in. Well, guess what? I hope you don't mind your property values going in half, because they will. Look at Japan. It doesn't take a genius to know that if you don't have a growing population, at some point there's going to be, I don't care what the shortages are today, if you don't have a growing population, at some point you're going to have too much housing. And when you have too much housing, what is going to happen to the prices? Oh yeah, they're going to go down. You're going to have ghost cities like they do in Japan, like they do in China, like they're going to have in Korea if they don't already. All right, what about this? I've got this from 𝐿𝐶𝐚𝐲. Yeah, so he says that he was at the talk last week. Okay, so last week he was reading something that was put out by Karpathy. I think it was by Karpathy, that hints of some of the recent under the hood technical components that are driving the progress in the FSD space. He talks about sensor streams with videos, maps, kinematics, and audio. And they're with very, very long contexts, like even 30 seconds, where all the videos, all the maps, all the kinematics, all the audio is enough. There's enough space to have 30 seconds worth of that content. And all of that goes into a big neural net, with steering and acceleration, of course, coming out optionally with visualization auxiliary data. So if this, you think of it like the context in a large language model, we started out with having maybe I don't know, 10,000 tokens was the most that they could get. Now they're getting millions of tokens or tens of millions of words within one context window. So anyway, this is the dream of the complete software 1.0. Software 2.0 rewrites the scales fully with data streaming from millions of cars in the fleet and the compute capacity of a chip, not some engineer's clever new double part car handler C++ abstraction with undefined test time characteristics of memory and runtime. So you're basically saying, no, we're not hard coding this. We're doing it with a neural net that is using massive amounts of data. He says there's a lot more hints in the video on where things are going with the emerging robotics plus AI at scale stack, world reconstructors, world simulators, dreaming dynamics, RL, all of these, that's reinforcement learning, all of these components, general, foundational, neural net based, how the car is really just a kind of robot. Are people getting that yet? And so the question, of course, answers itself. No, people are not getting it. And that's why we wrote the book. So if you haven't read the book yet, I'm telling you, just read chapter 3. Pay your $2.99. Read chapter 3 and 4, actually. Or is it 3 and 5? Read my first 2 chapters in the book. One of them is on the future of work. The other one is the future of how your day-to-day life is going to be. Things in your house, things in your neighborhood, things in downtown areas, in small towns and big towns, where your house might be located, completely different than it is today. And then you could read Bradford Ferguson's chapter, which is, the way that you immediately can start using AI for your office. And if you don't start using AI for your office, you may be out of business in a couple of years because you'll be so far behind. Anyway, read the book, read the book. You can, if you join if you join my Patreon at the $5 level, you will get a free audio book. So that'll come out like the next day. You'll get the audiobook like the next day after you join. All right. Let's see. That's all I got for that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers. Let's start with Tesla, which has been bouncing around 430 all day long. It was down a lot more. Ended the day at 430. It's been in the overnights, it's been at 430, 431, 432. Right now, 431.47. I don't have any kind of a new estimate of what I think is going to happen other than when you pull the safety driver out, the stock will go up to at least all-time highs. And then when you get unsupervised, it goes beyond all-time highs, maybe as you get close. And then as you get close to 1,500 cars on the road, then that's where I've been saying all along. I think we're at 750 if we get 1,500 cars on the road. I know that sounds crazy, but I was only a few percent off on this run up to my 480, which could be the lowest number I might have meant when I said all-time high. But we reached 470 twice. We just didn't quite make it to 480. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the numbers. Let's go on to the bonds. And the bonds today were nicely down. They're back up a little bit in the pre-market, sitting at 408.6. That is kind of like the center point of where they've been ever since the Fed lowered the interest rates. And then the Fed chairman said, well, maybe we will, maybe we won't in December. Right now, the betting is definitely that they will in December. Oil prices down another 14 cents, 58.35. That's pretty amazing. Natural gas down 0.15%, but still at $4.53. Gold is down 7.10, but still up at 4,206. Silver up 1 more percent, 53.99. I'm going to take a minute to go ahead and look. Is that a new all-time high? That is an all-time high, 53.9850 is an all-time high. Now that is just in the pre-market, so it'll have to confirm tomorrow. But there you go. Silver is back in the game, and then copper at $5.12 is right around. Well, it's back up again after it had come down under $5. The dollar is up against all the currency, well, at least the currencies I can see right now. Bitcoin is down 415 at 102,444. Ethereum is up 0.69 at 3,466. And the futures for tomorrow in the Dow is 0.22 up. S&P is up 0.13 and the NASDAQ up 0.23. And of course, if you haven't heard, if you've been under a rock, the government will be reopening. I guess tomorrow the president's going to sign the bill, and we will see how quickly they start sending out numbers. Some of the numbers may never be put together. People are like, what do you mean they're not going to put out the numbers? Well, some of them are surveys, and the surveys are for the prior 30 days, and they're taking the survey in real time. And so if you don't come out with the CPI on a certain date, then your survey information is no good. And so then do you do an interim CPI in the middle of the month and then do another one? I don't know what they're going to do, but because a lot of the stuff is not based on hard data. Believe it or not, it's not based on hard data. I know it sounds crazy. ADP is hard data. The federal government stuff is not hard data. The Thursday unemployment reports, those are kind of squishy, medium data. They get the information from the states, and sometimes the states give them the information. Sometimes they give it to them late, and sometimes they give it to them wrong. So it's kind of sort of data, sort of not. It does turn out usually to be more accurate over time. All right, so remember the card is up for going back and seeing Brian. I cannot put it up a second time, so if you want to watch it, go back at the card at the very beginning. Tomorrow should be a normal day as far as I know with Cern Basher. I've already talked to him and Nicholas Gibbs. So we will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. It's been great talking to you.